Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Eugene here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a popular strap product, the VersaGrips, versus the Amazon knockoff that costs 1/3 as much. We're going to see, is it really worth the money to pay 75 bucks for the real deal? Is it buy once, cry once? Or is it a better deal to buy 3 of these? We're going to break it down in super nitty-gritty detail. So let's get into it. If you're unfamiliar with grip products like VersaGrips, the idea behind them is to help you during pulling exercises and to remove your grip from the equation so that your pulling muscles can reach failure before your grip does. And while we watch me do a couple of pull-ups with VersaGrips on, I would like to mention that I am not affiliated with VersaGrips nor any other competing products and have bought everything you see in this video with my own money for a completely unbiased opinion. Now here we have 3 different exhibits. This is a size large VersaGrip, which I've had for about 2 weeks now. This is a size small knockoff brand one, which I've also had for about 2 weeks, and actually got this one for my wife. And this is a size medium knockoff grip that's the same brand as this one, but this one has been used for 1 year. So in this review, we're going to be able to see how the knockoff brand actually holds up over time, and then you can decide whether you want to pay for the real thing or the knockoff brand. Let's take a look at some of the similarities and differences with these products. Now this is a size large per the VersaGrip sizing chart, and for reference, I usually wear a medium size glove or a size 8 glove. And this is a size small of the knockoff brand. And you may be saying, wow, they look kind of similar in size. And shockingly, the cut of the actual strap is almost identical, which is actually a bit of a surprise, and we'll get to that later. Otherwise, the design is very similar. While the loop on the knockoff strap here on the grip is on this side, it's mirrored on the VersaGrip. And if we zoom in further, we'll see, the stitching on the VersaGrip, is very neat. There are no issues there. And the stitching pattern here, maybe not quite as neat, but the actual stitching pattern is almost exactly identical to the VersaGrip, except this one has, some extra stitching here, whereas the VersaGrip does not. The other thing I've noticed is, and I'm not sure if the camera will show this, there's an interesting kind of a dimple pattern on the VersaGrip, almost kind of like a carbon fiber look, whereas this one, just kind of feels like a leather strap. I'd say the material on the VersaGrip does feel a little more sticky when I try to slide my thumb along the actual material. So let's flip it around. Now, you notice some differences here. The actual parts that contact your wrist are sized a bit differently. Again, this is a size large, and we'll take a look at how it fits in a second, but the actual pads that wrap around the wrist are a bit larger compared to the knockoff brand. And if we look at the foam, and they use a somewhat different material here. You can see the knockoff brand has a thicker foam, but the material looks different, and honestly, it does look quite a bit cheaper on the knockoff one here compared to the foam that is used here on the real VersaGrip. But the cut, again, is almost a carbon copy. But what's interesting here, again, is that this is the size large from the VersaGrip, and this is the size small from the competitor brand. Now, you're probably wondering, how do they hold up over time? So let's bring out the 1-year-old one. And as we can see, we definitely have some issues here. And the primary issue with the knockoff brand is, again, this foam material. So this layer here has completely delaminated, and this actually happened maybe 3 or 4 months after use. Again, I've been using this as my daily driver for almost any kind of heavy pulling exercise for almost exactly a year now, and this is where we're at. Now, in use, this doesn't really affect, the performance of the strap this much, but it is somewhat annoying. And honestly, this is the main reason why I decided to buy the real VersaGrip after seeing this, delamination of the foam here happen so quickly in just a year's time. That being said, the actual grip material held up just fine, despite being wrapped and dragged around all kinds of knurled grips on handlebars and barbells. So that at least held up. The stitching is still pretty well intact. There are no problems there. The Velcro is somewhat tattered, so that definitely looks a bit lower quality, but I haven't really used the VersaGrips that long yet, so we'll see how they hold up over time. And while the Velcro is a bit tattered, it does still work. And if we compare this to the 2-week-old version of the knockoff grips, and let's compare that first to the VersaGrip. There are some threads here that are sticking out, and yeah, the build quality isn't great. We see the foam is still intact here, but this was a really weird material choice here. It's just some kind of glue holding this together, whereas the foam here looks like it's just kind of a one material that will hopefully not suffer from the same issue, but time will tell. And before we move on, let's just have another quick size comparison of the size medium knockoff brand versus the size large VersaGrip. And again, we'll compare the grippy part first. So here, the cut is actually slightly different. The size medium of the knockoff brand actually seems to be slightly wider and bigger for the grippy material compared to the VersaGrip. You can see that there, even though it's black on black. Again, they're kind of lined up on top of each other. Lengthwise, they seem almost the same. And as far as pads, the size medium of the knockoff brand actually seems to use pretty similar size foam pads to the VersaGrip. And here is what the VersaGrip large looks like versus the knockoff brand small. The back of the wrist and the front of the wrist, and there's a lot more of a gap between the foam here. And since this one isn't quite as broken in, it does feel quite a bit more stiff than the other one, so I do think that break-in is a large part of the comfort formula here. Now, this one is the knockoff brand medium, and this is the VersaGrip large. So this is what it looks like from the palm side, and here is what it looks like on the back of the wrist. So one thing to note is I am just right at the edge of the sizing for the size large of the VersaGrip. This is nice and snug now, but as you can see, the foam pads here are almost touching. And VersaGrips, I don't believe they actually offer a size medium, so you can either get the small or the large. Whereas the foam pads on this medium size knockoff, still have some space here. So in terms of fit, I would actually say the cut and the sizing of the foam pieces here is actually better on the knockoff. The knockoff one fits a bit more comfortably on my wrist than the VersaGrip. Though to be fair, this one has had about a year to break in, whereas this one is only a couple of weeks old. But yeah, as I'm holding it now, I feel quite a bit more, I would say, hot spots with the VersaGrips, but I'm hoping that will go away after they break in. Now let's see what it looks like when we actually grab a barbell or other pieces of equipment. And here's what the VersaGrip versus the size small knockoff looks like. Pretty similar. Here's the VersaGrip versus the size medium one. So, is the VersaGrip worth paying 3 times as much? As much as it hurts me to say it, unfortunately, I can't make that call. Now, the only real issue that I have experience with these knockoff brand ones is this foam delamination. And during a workout, it doesn't really bother me that much. I don't really feel it while I do a heavy lift, but it's something that just bothers me on an OCD level. So I think for you and your budget, you're the one who has to make the call. And what I can do is call out the strengths and weaknesses of each product. So for the VersaGrip, obviously the materials and the quality is superior. That's objectively better. While the VersaGrip does win out on quality, the knockoff brand does have a few advantages. One of those advantages is more size options, and I actually think the cuts of the foam for the sizes is better because there's more options, and after break-in, I think these are actually more comfortable. Secondly, obviously the cost. At 25 bucks for a set versus 70 or so, it's kind of a big difference. If you're okay with your foam getting a little bit delaminated here, then I would say go with a knockoff. If you want a product that will likely last for a long time, then I'd say go with the VersaGrip. As the trope goes, buy once, cry once. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it useful and can make an informed purchasing decision based on what you've seen. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.